Fantastic, here we are.
Hello. Hello.
How
Hi.
how are you?
I'm really well. It's so nice to finally meet you.
Absolutely. We've been messaging a lot. Next it'll be in real life.
Yeah, kind of like in real life, talking heads through a screen.
Next time we'll do it in person.
Next time we will all do it in person, all together.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
welcome to everyone that's joining. I was the co-founder of Valerie, and this is Sophia, who I'm very excited to be talking to today as part of our We See You campaign, which is talking about all of the emotions around perimenopause and what people experience. And one of the themes that we've been talking about recently has been how there's been a big increase in anxiety in perimenopause. And certainly for me, this was one of the very early symptoms that I had when at the time I didn't realize it was perimenopause, but looking back, now really understand how that really impacted me.
Mm.
And yeah, I know we get a lot of women coming to us that are confused about whether they are or they aren't in perimenopause. Some women know that they're deep in the throes of it, and others are like, well, how do I know? And often that can be one of the very early signs. So I'm delighted to have Sophia here, who is an expert in perimenopause and midlife, and she coaches a lot of women going through this phase. So is kind of really well equipped to be able to talk about what a lot of women experience and how to really, I suppose, navigate those feelings that they have. So, Sophia, I'd love you to kind of tell me a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, hi. Such a good introduction. Thanks, Wiz. So I'm Sophia, as you said, and I'm a 51-year-old midlife women's coach and well-being mentor and trainer. So there's coaches of all kind of shapes, sizes. You can have a manifesting coach. So many people call themselves coaches, but what I has been really important to me and makes me special is that I'm a certified coach, which means I have basically a degree in coaching and a lot of experience working with particularly midlife women because it was my pain. Like you said, I was going through perimenopause in my 40s, and coaching women who were midlife women, but not really, the same themes kept on repeating themselves. And anxiety was a really big one. And it was a really big one for me, especially at the beginning. Like, sadly, you describe, it's a really common first symptom and one that's really difficult to miss. I also work within the NHS, so that's given me a really interesting overview of how doctors tend to approach working with women who are coming to them with anxiety symptoms who are around 35 onwards, let's say. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's what I do.
Fantastic. And obviously, with your experience, I'd love you to kind of share a bit more about why does anxiety increase in perimenopause, and why is it one of those early symptoms? What's going on?
So um, how long is a piece of string? And a lot of this is like, chicken and egg. But very crudely speaking, and again, I'm not a doctor or medical professional, but very crudely speaking, our hormones begin to do this. So decline, particularly progesterone in the beginning. So we have these hormones which follow usually a particular pattern every month, culminating in our period. So imagine that those are declining over time. So over the course, this is what I didn't know, of a very long time. So not 28 to 30, whatever days, however long your cycle is, but over the course of years and years. In my particular case, 10 years. I mean, unbelievable. So it is, so we didn't know this before, now we know this. And so as, say, progesterone begins to decline, that's like your stability, your calming hormone. Very crudely speaking, think of it as your calmer. And then estrogen does this, a roller coaster. So it can have spikes up to 3 times higher than before and lows. Spikes and lows. And the kind of buffering effect of progesterone is doing this. So you have less kind of mood support, and while there's this going on at the same time, which creates this feeling of you don't know whether you're coming or going. We can feel unstable, you can feel unstable, and the anxiety spikes can be to do with that. So basically you're not going mad, it's not your, you know, it's what's going on in your body. Your hormones are all over the place, and that might or might not translate to other symptoms. Like your period could still be the same, or there might be subtle symptoms that you're not used to tracking or know that it could be related. But in terms of anxiety and menopause, that's what's going on. There's also various neurotransmitters in our body that support our mood that can be affected. Don't know if you've heard of oxytocin or serotonin. So those are affected by these fluctuations. And over time, I think what happens is we also get exhausted. And the longer it takes us to get support and understand what's going on with us, I think the greater the impact. So I think in particular with our generation, and you know, our Gen X, our Gen Xers, we didn't really have this education earlier on. So hopefully with more education, there will be more understanding, more support earlier on in a woman's journey. She won't have to go through years and years and then be exhausted and see all the impact in the rest of her life that we're seeing currently.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because anxiety can kind of creep up and then, or if you haven't experienced it before as well, and then it's suddenly there and you don't know how to describe it or what it is. What would you say are some of the early signs that people should look out for?
So there is an actual recognized syndrome, another symptom that we didn't know about, but generally it explains it quite well. It's called not feeling like myself. So that could be a sign that something is afoot, that is different for you. We all know when things feel a bit off, but you don't know, things with you feel a bit off in general, and you're kind of maybe late 30s onwards, and I'm thinking, oh, if things feel off, I'm snapping. You know, I'm snapping. I don't have the, you know, anxiety can also come again, kind of chicken and egg. It might be like you're feeling less kind of up for things. Social anxiety, things like suddenly being worried about driving is really common, and for many different reasons. So kind of phobias that you didn't have before, out of the blue, irrational fears even that can go take you by, really assail you, and just think, well, why am I worried about this? I shouldn't be worrying about this. That kind of thing could be a sign. Panic attacks. If you've never had one of those, I thought I was dying the first time I had one. I was bang on 41, and I didn't know what it was. Never experienced something like that before. So definitely get things checked out. But if you've never had an anxiety attack before, or you don't know much about it, you know, palpitate in your body, things can feel very different, very heightened. Your heart might start going, you might feel sweaty, that you might feel anyway in perimenopause. You might be sweaty, hot, that feeling of you need to flee, or again, kind of anger you know, flaring up, inability to concentrate, foggy brain. That could be a symptom of kind of what we call high functioning anxiety. There are many shapes and forms that it can take, but those are a few of them.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I like the not quite feeling yourself, because I think that's definitely the start of early perimenopause, is kind of just not being able to put your finger on things, and often associating it with other external factors that are going on. And obviously it is hard when people are busy and lots going on in their lives, that yeah, it's, you kind of start to think, well, it must be because of X, Y, and Z. So I think it's really important to start to tune into your body and yourself and your mind, and work out how you're feeling and how long it lasts, and yeah, how different it is,
You're right.
to be able to identify it.
It can be very, very difficult to unpick what is what and what's midlife or what's perimenopause. And I would say don't overthink it. You know,
Mm.
just you are where you are. Meet yourself where you are is a phrase. Just you are where you are. If things are feeling a bit off, firstly, take note. Take note. What is it? You know, we don't do this stuff. What is it that feels off exactly? How do you know? Because when we go in to see any professionals, we're going to need to communicate how we're feeling, and they'll ask you. You know, they've got your GP has 15 minutes. You know, 2 of those is walking from the waiting room to your GP and sitting down. You know, you've got very little time to get across what your need is. So the more prepared you are in terms of this is what's going on with me, these are the symptoms, I'm not sure about this and this and this is how this maps onto my cycle. This is stuff that we can all do to communicate this feels strange for me, and go and have a chat, you know, have the chats.
Mm. Absolutely. And is there anything, I suppose there's a lot of misconceptions about perimenopause and anxiety. Is there anything that you would like to share that's, I suppose, debunking it as well? Because we can all easily associate something with one thing, but yeah, what would you say needs debunking?
The the myths. There are so many myths, and mainly the ones that we tell ourselves.
Mm.
They come from somewhere, you know, all those beliefs, all those stories. The social media, I think, is really amazing. Here we are today talking about
Yeah.
it, but you know, it can also create a lot of noise and and fuel anxiety and fear. So I've got a lot of, you know, in my work, I meet people of, especially my NHS work, in a range, and lots of 30-year-olds are really worrying about it. You know, what's going to happen? Am I going to, you know, what's going to happen? I'm really worried about it. So I think education is really important, but not to get up in those stories. So education rather than endless information.
Mm.
And I guess the myth that I would like to debunk about all of this is that information does not equate wisdom. And the wisdom is here, begins with us, begins with tracking our cycle, begins with awareness, begins with kind of being an expert, you know, seeing ourselves as interesting, going, all right, with curiosity rather than the kind of iron rod that we're used to, you know, beating ourselves up with. And the other thing is that we talk a lot about, you know, why might anxiety be happening? I don't think we're talking enough about what impact does that anxiety have on a woman's life long term, on our health. You know, so there's 2 sides. There's the why is it happening,
Mm.
that is, you know, possibly hormonal, you know, there's insulin resistance, there's multiple lifestyle and you know, factors why this might be occurring. There's a lot that we experience in midlife. You know, children becoming teenagers with their own hormonal fluctuations, leaving home. Lots of us change careers or want to change careers. We don't feel about things in the same way that we used to. We're less tolerant. All of those are lifestyle factors that can fuel change. This feeling of change. So it's like what's worked in the past isn't necessarily what's going to work for you now. It's like get wise about yourself and curious about yourself. I think that is a very underrated power
Yeah,
that
I
we
love that.
all have. Yeah, I kind of answered your question there. Can I add this one bit about the
Yeah,
impact?
please.
I think
Please do.
it's
Yeah, no, I was
really
about to ask you
important.
that.
Thank you. I think it's so important that we talk about the impact of this long-term cortisol, basically, that can just feed a lot of further instability, further symptoms, night sweats, palpitations. Some of those are hormonally induced, but at the same time, our ability to cope is also reduced, and the anxiety will fuel them. So things like insulin resistance, blood sugar fluctuations can also mimic those symptoms. So don't just assume it's in your, oh, I'm making it up, it's in my head, I need to deal with this better. It's a bit of trial and error, and just giving things a go. But there are things that can really help. And back to the impact, it can weaken your immune system. It can have a long-term impact on heart health. Obviously on relationships, most of all relationship with ourselves, our self-esteem. There's a famous study that said one out of 10 women can leave the workplace. I'm really hoping that most of those women are doing things that they love more and trying new things, that they're founding their own businesses. And I also know that there is not the level of communication yet that we want. And I've actually written some things down. It can actually fuel digestive issues, gut health problems, increased risk of depression, because long-term anxiety can also go hand in hand with depression. Sleep disruptions, burnout, chronic fatigue, relationships issues, so social withdrawal. If you're feeling anxious, you might not really want to get out there. If you don't want to drive your car because you're scared, that's going to have an impact. So really anything that we can do to begin to bring the heat down and to cope with our changing selves better and more kindly will be appreciated. And your supplement, which I think is really extremely tasty apart from anything else, can help to support that. Really, and I say whatever works. There is no one thing. It's never going to be the one thing. The one spoonful of something, the one patch, it's never going to be that. But you always have a relationship with yourself. So get curious, ladies.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, hormonal imbalances can also are very often affected by vitamins and mineral imbalances.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's definitely what we're trying to do with the Daily Essential. And also having ashwagandha in as well is very calming. So that kind of really helps with that increased anxiety and cortisol as well, and
Oh,
help you
definitely.
manage things. But like you say, just one teaspoon of something, it's working really well, but actually, what else are you doing to make positive changes in your life?
Yeah.
And anxiety can be a big thing. What are your, I suppose, top tips for people that experience anxiety? Like, what should they do? Like when you're in the throes of it, it's very hard to deal with. What would you say some quick tips are?
The first thing is to understand what it is.
Mm,
What is it? It's a physiological response,
mm,
a fight or flight response, a survival response. So something's happening in your body. You feel it in your body. So it could be fueled by worry, it could be fueled by hormones, but something is happening in your body that's making you kind of want to protect itself. So anxiety is normal, it's a natural response to threat. So, something is going on there where there's a natural response to threat, and that threat might be perceived. So, in the way that you think about something, again, how long is a piece of string? Very long. And it could be something that's happening in your own body, fueling it. Like, oh, why am I sweating? Why am I waking up at night? Or I'm exhausted. That's going to fuel it. So, I think the thing that I would like to say to someone who's experiencing it is try to find ways to bring some space and time for you in your daily life, without making the big changes first, and really get curious, really just give yourself the grace of a little bit of space and time. And you can get someone to, maybe help you do that. That could be your doctor or a friend or a coach or a community, like we have here. But really just find some space and time, because it might be, you've got tears to cry. It might be that there's something that you haven't been admitting to yourself, or even, reducing caffeine. I can never say the word right. Reducing caffeine, and finding a way that really truly helps you ground yourself and switch off. It could be a bath during the day when no one's at home, if you're working from home. Just the little changes where you can give yourself, where can I give myself more grace? That, just even that.
Yeah, nice. Slowing down, and I think women are juggling so many balls these days, and yeah, and also putting a lot of people before themselves. So I think that's slowing down, and even if it's 10 minutes every morning, you get up earlier than everyone else, or at the end of the day, and how can you just, yeah, be more present and slow down. I've certainly found that very helpful. And also I really find my recognizing my breath is a big thing as well. Are you breathing properly? And I mean, it sounds so simple, but very often we're not fully breathing fully into all the way into our diaphragm and kind of all areas of our lungs. So that's certainly something that I find really helpful, that if I'm feeling quite anxious, is how can I kind of reconnect with myself and my breath.
Yeah, as part of connecting with yourself and finding, to me that's grounding. Really, taking a breath, asking yourself, what do I need now? What do I need? And actually really practically looking in your diary and going, right, where is me in this picture? Where am I in this picture of my day or of my week? Maybe even color code it, just something that you can do regularly, is like you said, maybe put your hand on your heart, take a deep breath, and just say, right, what do I need now? And like really try to answer that. It's not easy, but it's a habit where we can cultivate coming back to ourselves. That self-compassion is really what that is. We're not used to doing it. We're very good at dishing out advice and being there for everyone, as you said, and kids if we have them, partners, jobs. I think perimenopause is a time where we are required, or we require to give a bit more time and attention to ourselves and put ourselves higher up that hierarchy, which none of the systems that we set up for 40 years are set up to do. So it's not easy making those changes. It starts a little bit at a time.
Yeah, lovely. And how do you think we can reframe anxiety? Because I think when things come up in our lives that are challenging, I think it always also presents an opportunity. And it's not about being all doom and gloom, but I think it's, what would you say a reframe of anxiety and perimenopause is?
I really believe that anxiety could be seen as the catalyst to really getting real with ourselves about what we actually want in the second half of our life, and doing it. Like, I'm getting tingles as we say that, because it's I just look at myself and I look at the women who I'm working with, and I've worked with this hundreds of hours of coaching this year, and everyone who comes in, I know they're going to come in with a problem, with a really significant problem, especially, as you can imagine, a doctor's practice. Nobody goes to the doctor when they feel great, you know. And over actually sometimes a little bit of time, I can hear in the background of what they're saying, they want something else. They want more. So, that voice wants something really amazing for you, and your future self kind of wants something really amazing for you. So those symptoms are not there to be numbed and to just go away. They're like a call, an awakening, if you choose to see it that way, because it's a matter of perspective. I love your question. You know, is that curiosity again, that self-compassion is going, what's going on with, what's going on with me? What? And daring to ask, what do I want? Yeah, I think it's really powerful. And we have role models. What's going on in Hollywood at the moment? We have role models of women who are very visible, their most visible and powerful selves now in midlife onwards. And maybe choose those role models and just kind of go, I see myself in this person, or in when this is over, because it will end, what do I want to have been proud of in this time? Where, who am I becoming? It's such a big question, and it sounds so like, who am I becoming? That Zoolander moment, who am I? But it's like really, I believe, an opportunity to become a more honest and authentic version of ourselves without the kind of pressure anymore of becoming a mother, whether we have been a mother or not, without that pressure, and to just be a more authentic, more of ourselves, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. No, I love that. Very, very aligned on that. And I think it's about coming back into alignment with who you are. And you may never have been that person before, but now is the time and the opportunity to discover it and let her out.
Let her out, let her play. And like my 20-year-old self would just be some of the stuff that I'm doing, and at work and public speaking, and all of this. I think she'd be like, what's she doing? Even the way, laughing and dancing and just being more carefree.
Yeah.
Never would I have given myself those breaks before. And, we call it the inner critic. I think the inner critic can be really loud in midlife. I think it's a time to begin to deal with them a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And, all of this is kind of in the same region as a life coach, the inner criticism, the imposter syndrome, all of those things can flare up because you're also trying to take on more when you may be feeling a bit vulnerable at the same time. So, we get no prizes for basically being superwomen. It's not going to work. So, I think that self-compassion piece can be really, 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 really important.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was really insightful. Where can people find you?
Well, I live on Instagram and on LinkedIn, or you can send me an email, drop me an email on sophiacleverlycoaching@gmail.com. I'd love to speak to you and hear your experience. I work one-to-one and online with women all over the world, and I also run courses and speak with, speak in organizations on midlife and perimenopause, and just also how we manage our mind, our mood, and identity at this pivotal time. Because that's what we're talking about, really, isn't it? Our identity. It is. It's funny, that Zoolander moment. I can't think of a more different kind of parallel, but that thing that's coming up is like, who am I? It's like, it's very teenage in a way, isn't it? Teenage queen age. It can be a tough, long moment, but we're here for you.
Yeah, brilliant.
And
amazing. Well, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. I hope everyone's found it helpful, and thank you for all that you do to support women. I love the recent videos in your campaign. They're just so honest and raw, and as women, we have a gift. We open up. We have that gift and have the ability to express ourselves, especially in environments where we feel safe. And so thank you for creating that community and this wonderful supplement. I honestly don't know what I would have done through January without it. So I do love it. Thank you very much for all you do.
Pleasure. Great to see you.
Great to see you.
Bye.
Bye.